Hi, it's Joanne Davies here again, out on my evening walk, and I'm just enjoying the last of the spring sunshine here this evening before it's time to go home and bath the kids. And while I've been out walking, I've just been giving some thought to a question a student of mine asked not so long ago, and a question that I've been asked many, many times before. And that question is, why do some spirits never come through? So in this video, I would like to discuss an answer to that question in greater depth. So, why do some spirits never come through? Well, how many times have you sat down in front of a 20-year-old girl and tried to give her a reading, whether that be in a situation where you're out at a charity night doing readings, or whether it be in a circle that you go along to. And right away, you're looking at this young, slim, good looking 20-year-old girl who's smiling and beautiful. And you can't help yourself but make assumptions about this girl. Your first thoughts are the dyed blonde hair and the fake tan and the false eyelashes. And you then might make assumptions that this young girl is an immature, frivolous young woman who might have a granny in the spirit world because she's 20, so her granny might have passed. And you might then start to bring granny through. And I think a lot of mediums do make assumptions, possibly without even meaning to. And so you might bring granny through, and that might all be good and accurate. The girl's granny may well have passed 5 years earlier when she was 15, and she may well be still devastated at the loss of her grandmother. And you bring granny through, and then you finish your message, and or rather you finish your evidence, and then you jump on to the message, which is often then when we start to dip down into the psychic, because we say to granny, why are you here, granny? What is it you want to tell her? And you then start to get a sense of boyfriends, or future career, or studying, maybe because you're assuming that she's 20, so she'll be going to uni and she probably has a boyfriend. So, what's happened there? You've allowed appearances to drag you down a rabbit hole that otherwise you didn't want to go down. And if you just ignored the appearance of this girl completely and took your attention to the spirit world, as you should as a medium, then you might be aware of Granny and give her lots of evidence from Granny. But then if you say to Granny, well, who else is here with you in the spirit world? If you give it long enough, Granny might then say to you, well, I have a baby boy here in my arms, and his name was Justin, and he died when he was 2. And all of a sudden, you start to realise that this 20-year-old girl in front of you lost her son Justin when she was 18. She had gave birth to him when she was 16. And if you give it enough time and stay with the grandmother in the spirit world, then he may well come through. But I find that all too often we are in the business of making judgments and assumptions and then bringing through the first spirit that we're able to grab based on our assumptions. Oh, okay, so she's 20. She's got granny in spirit. So you grab at granny and grab a granny, haha. But you bring granny through and then you finish it there and you quickly move on to the message, and you don't do the young girl here on the earth justice, and you don't do her baby in the spirit world or her granny any justice. So I think the main reason some spirits never come through is because not enough mediums take their attention to other spirits that are present with the original spirit that comes through. Um, in a platform situation, okay, you've only got 7 minutes, so it would be sensible to bring one communicator and a reason why they've come. But in the case of a private sitting, you have the luxury of time, and also in a development circle, you have the luxury of time, and that's the whole reason why development circles are essential as a developing medium, because that's the place where you do have time and you have the luxury of kind sitters who are willing to give you the time to really push the boundaries with the spirit world and expand and broaden your mind in order to bring forth more evidence from spirit. And when you have the luxury of time, you know, there's no point in wasting a 30-40 minute reading just talking about Granny. Bring Granny through by all means if she's there, but then ask her who else is there beside you and bring the rest of the family as well. And that might sound really difficult, but ultimately, if you are able to take your awareness from the physical world here to the spirit world and bring evidence of someone's relative in that spirit world, if you can do it with one spirit, you can do it with 10. If you can do it once, you can do it again. So it's not difficult. Mediumship takes time and dedication and patience. And once you've set your mind to that dedication and you've set your mind to practicing and developing, then eventually it becomes, you know, or rather you become like a duck taking to the water, where if you bring grandmother through, you can then bring the rest of the family as well. It's just a case of you being open to it. So to finish off, here is just an example of a reading I did this morning. I had a Skype reading with a gentleman this morning, and he was middle-aged, and my first thought when I looked at the man's face was that he was grieving, because the grief was written all over his face. But at that point, as I was introducing myself to him, I didn't know who he was grieving for. I just knew he was in grief. So I took my attention to the spirit world, and the first communicator that came through was the man's father. And I brought through his dad, and I then brought through his grandmother. And that was all fair and well, and that might have taken me about 20 minutes. And he accepted the evidence that was given from Dad and from Granny, but the whole time I just knew there was another spirit that he was desperate to hear from. Now, had I been less experienced, or had I, you know, had a lack of trust in my own abilities, then I would have just finished there with Granny and Dad, and I would have been really pleased with myself. Wow, I've brought his father, I've brought his Granny, aren't I a great medium? But instead, I recognised that I still hadn't brought who he needed to hear from. So I took my attention back to the spirit world, and I took the luxury of time and I just sat for another 5 minutes and asked his father and his grandmother to allow this other spirit to manifest. And then all of a sudden, after a few minutes, his brother started to manifest. And it turned out his brother just passed within the last year. He was only a young guy, and he passed very tragically. And this poor man was blaming himself for his brother's death. So the moral of the story is that time is often lacking in mediumship. Patience is often lacking in mediumship. And particularly in the platform, when we've only got a 5 to 7 minute window per contact, we can often just be happy with giving that one communicator that we are first aware of. But ultimately, we might miss then bringing the communicator that the person really wants to hear from, because we are not, maybe through fear of falling flat on our face on a public platform, we don't bother to then say to the first communicating spirit who else is there with you. But often when we do that, we're able to bring more evidence of other loved ones who've perhaps died more recently. I find that the ones who've died the most recently don't always come first. Sometimes they do, but often I find it's the ones who've been dead the longest who come first, or the spirits who shout the loudest that come first. So why do some spirits never come through? I think the reason is because the medium is underdeveloped or lacking in trust within themselves and their spirit guides, or is not dedicating enough time and patience to allow other spirits to manifest. And this might upset some people, so if you are a snowflake and I've upset you, then I do apologise if you don't agree with me, but I can only speak from a place of my own truth and experience. So I hope these words help you a little. If you like this video, please like. Please share with any friends who you think might enjoy this video or benefit from it. And please hit the subscribe bell, because then you'll get a little ding-a-ling-a-ling every time I send, or rather I post a new video. So I'd really love you to get my other videos if you think this has been helpful. So thanks, take care, and I'll speak to you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.